We've got a question of November 2024, and we're going to look at question 6 on that same paper. Our first question reads and differentiate between personal conflict and workplace conflict, whereby personal conflict, basically, it's a conflict that obviously involve issues like emotions, values, beliefs. It also involves preferences. So obviously, it is uh, conflicting emotions, values, beliefs, preferences, or relationships. So basically, we are saying it is a dispute between two people within the workplace, and that obviously have become disruptive. So we're saying this dispute at the end of the day is going to be disruptive at the end of it. So this is the description of personal conflict. Then looking at a workplace conflict, is a conflict which takes place within a workplace or among workers at that environment. So that is workplace conflict. So it occurs when employees have opposing ideas, interests, or it might be opposing approaches. So that's what we have. So the question requires us to differentiate between the two in terms of coming up with the discrepancy that exist between personal conflict and workplace conflict. So we have a difference that we have in our other section, whereby under personal conflict, we are saying this is a conflict between two people, most most often from mutual dislike or personality clash. Whereas workplace conflict, we are saying this is a conflict which is a disagreement or opposition between or among individuals, uh, teams or departments in an organization. So this is the difference that we have. Then moving on to this second part of our question, it reads discuss dispute of right under the following subheadings, whereby the first part is saying definition of dispute of right. So to that dispute of right arises um, from a breach of, it might be a breach of law, a breach of contracts of employment, or it might be a breach of collective bargaining agreement. So that's the description of dispute of right. We also have a description that we have in our section, which is saying this is the right that has been interfered with or ignored by the employee, by the employer. And then second part, it can only be settled by legal decision. Very important to take note that when we are having a dispute of right, it can only be settled by legal decision and arbitration, but not by negotiation. So negotiation cannot solve a dispute of rights. Then third point, it is ensured by common law, statutory law, contract of employment, and customer practice. So that's how it is enforced. So moving on to the next part of our question, 6.3, name 6 effects of a protected strike. So you're going to say that we are going to deduce positive effects from a protected strike. Remember, this is a protected strike, which means it's going the legal way. So it obviously is going to result in positive results as workers are not going to be affected. So if you move on to our answer section, you're going to see that the effects that we have is that em- employers may not be dismissed. That's the first point, because it's a protected strike. And also, we can take note that on the second part, employees may not get a court interdict since it's protected. Employees do not commit a breach of contract. There's no breach of contract because it's a protected one. And then employer may not institute civil cases, and then the employer does have to pay employees. So it means even if the employees are engaging in a strike, obviously they are not going to be at work. They are still are supposed to be paid since it's a protected strike. So that's the uh, point that we have here. The last point is saying employer may not refuse housing or food to the employees. So you're saying in terms of allowances, housing allowances, they are still are supposed to be given. It's not supposed to be a matter of using the strike that is transferred to punish the employees. So basically, that's what we have on 6.3. So moving on to the next part, which is now 6.4, name and discuss 4 types of strike. So you're going to say that we have economic strike as the first one, whereby we are saying it demands better wages and good working conditions. So obviously, we are going to say that if we have negatives in terms of macroeconomic problems in the economy, those are the ones that are going to affect are going to lead to economic strike. So I remember high inflation, which is going to erode the value of the salaries and wages, is also going to lead to an economic strike. So we go on to the second one, a recognition strike, try to force employer to recognize the union. So very important. And then general strike, it is a general protest by employees against certain working conditions. If there are harsh working conditions, obviously it will lead to a general strike. Then solidarity strike is workers stop work out of sympathy for one or more colleagues. Maybe there are we have in that workplace there are one or two workers that are being affected, and then the other employees who obviously support the those that are being affected, and then they engage in a solidarity strike. Then we go to the last one, a strategic strike. Only few employees in key positions or strategic sections strike. So this one you see that it's not involving all the employees, but those that are influential positions, strategic sections, they are the ones that are going to engage in the strike, and obviously it's going to affect the organization, and the organization obviously will react positively in such a way. So we have the next question, which is saying, discuss the influence of external inputs on the labor system. So you're going to see that the external inputs comes as, for example, economic systems. They come as political systems. So moving on to our other section, we'll see that the first one that we have is economic system. So economic system basically it's a system of production, resource allocation, and a distribution of goods and services within a society. So that's our economic system. So we also have a political system whereby we are saying political system obviously is going to be described with laws that are going to be enacted in that economy. So it is the state may take certain actions such as new legislation or amend existing legislation to protect the community. And also we've got the legal system. Obviously, on terms of our legal system, it is described by a statutory legislation and a common law. And lastly, we have got a social system whereby we are saying there is continual interaction between social relationships and labor relationships. The different objectives and goals, values and perceptions and social structures could lead to tension in the workplace. So that's what we have as we look at the discussion of influence of the external inputs on the labor system. So you're going to see that these systems, obviously, they are going to affect the labor system. For example, our economic system, we're talking about erosion of the value of money, and that is obviously going to affect the salaries and wages. And obviously, if that happens, our workers are going to engage in industrial action so that their salaries and wages are increased. So it's now affecting the labor market, the labor system. And we look at the political system also, we're going to see that the political stance also can also affect the viability of the business. And in that case, obviously, it's going to affect the behavior of the employees in that workplace. So in such a way, we are explaining in terms of influence of the external inputs on the labor system. So this is what we have, guys, and this becomes the last question that we have on our question 6 on the question paper of November 2024. Thank you for listening, and let's take note more typical examination questions will be uploaded on this channel. So let's stay tuned for more videos to come. We'll meet again in the next video.